And so this is a small coding challenge where we are going to analyze these logs. So you can see this log is a two-dimensional array. The outer array and the inner array has the timestamp and the user, and with the user and we have this resource name. These are pretty much the standard access logs. So you can follow the link where we did the part first of this and we analyzed the logs to find the user and his first and last access time. Let me run this. This is solution one. Here you would find that this is a user and this one is its first access time for and the last access time. Now in part 2, which is this video, we will cover to figure out any resource. For example, this resource through has been accessed how many times in 5-minute window. So we have to calculate the resource which is being accessed most number of times. For example, I'll give you here, you pass the logs to this method, and then this method would return you the resource and the number of access which happened in the last 5 minutes within that 5-minute window. So this is a very interesting problem, and this is what we have for log one. So let's start solving it and we'll have the algorithm for it. Now let's come here. This is our synopsis. This is what is should be our method, which should be our method. So let's create this method, and this should technically return the expected return should be this. So let me first do a pass to this, and if possible, we'll see.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
We'll also try to print it in this way. So we would be able to figure out what are those resources. So let me know what do you think the algorithm should be in comments. But the way I think of this is our input, right? So what we'll do is we have to create a map for the resource where resource is the key and the value will be all access time against this resource. Once we have that, we can sort the resource in terms of time, and then we would be able to pick the 5-minute window, and within that 5-minute window we'll calculate the frequency for all the resources, and we'll put out the resource which is being accessed maximum number of times. So a lot of things are happening, it's better to write. Let's do that. So we will have the algorithm. Step number 1 would be transform to map, where key would be resource id and value would be list of timestamps. Once we have that, then we will sort the timestamps. And so this is pretty much we also did in some other way in part 1. The video is mentioned in the link if you would like to check out. Once we sort it, then we will calculate the frequency. In 5-minute window. Once that is done, we will return the highest access resource. We need to find first, let's keep it simple. So we'll first do the part 1, and don't worry if you haven't understood this by now totally, you would do that in a bit. So the baby steps first, we will print this logs 1 if it gets printed. Just to keep it simple, I'll just say log L, so it would save some typing time for us. So we are able to see this. Now we will transform it for the resource and when was it accessed. It's simple. We will go with record in logs Once we have that, we will create a map. Now inside the map, there is a method called as set default, which would pick up the key in the record, which is at index number second, and it would create a list, a default list. If key doesn't exist, it would add this, right? If key exists, then it would not do anything. Now we will say in this, we will pick the record and then we will append the value which is timestamp, which is of course at index 0. Here this is index 0, this is index 2. At the end of this, our step 1 would be done, and if we'll print the map, we would pretty much be able to see our map. So resource 1 has been accessed so and so time. Now, second problem is when we added these resources, it is not sorted like it is in the string format, and sorting a string is it's not that easy, right? So we have to convert it in numbers, then the natural sorting could occur. Once we have that, what we can do is we can also sort it either before or after. So we would pick to sort this thing after, and then we will do, there are different approaches now. So in this, for example, you have this. Now you have to figure out if this and these three comes in 5-minute window or not. Now these are the time stamps in second. So we have to pretty much figure out 5 multiplied by 60, which is 300. So anything which is in the range of 300, that's what we're gonna take. So either we can sort or we don't need to sort. There are two different ways of doing this same thing. So let's do it without sorting first. Now to do it without sorting, let's iterate. So we have, now we need to get the list and then we need to iterate over the list and we need to put the number against the map. So I would call it as FM, which would be our final map. Once we have that, now we have to split the function. Otherwise, this function is going to become confusing. So we will calculate frequency. So we will make a function which is called as frequency. And this would accept any list. We can say any list. Now the job of this function is it would calculate, first it would sort, actually that's not required. So first it would calculate the delta for anything which is coming up in the 5-second window. So we need to go with nested sorting, nested loop. So we would go with for x in LST and then for y in LST. We are doing the same list. If y is greater than or equal to x and y is less than or equal to x plus 300, which is the second, time in second. So we would do in bracket, if this value falls here, so we would have the delta list. We would call it as a delta list. So we would append this value in the delta list. So, and then this delta list would be appended in the ANSL. Once this comes out of this loop, we will say ANS, which is answer list dot append delta list. Now we will print our ANSL, and from here what we're going to do is for key value in map, we would call this FREQ, and we will pass the value, which is nothing else but the list. So once we call this, it would come here and it is supposed to print. This would go as items. My bad. Wonderful. So what we have here now is, so previously we had this. Now we have this value. These two come in the 500, sorry, 300 second delta, and these are alone. So same way we have all these values clubbed up. Now we have to come up with our answer, which should look something like this, that resource 3 is as small as this and this. So which is that resource? We need to grab that resource which has the highest frequency. So this would take a little bit of iteration again. So we will iterate, and then we also have to capture the resource name. So once we have this delta, probably we can iterate one more time. To count the length, wherever the length is maximum, we would say that resource is the winner. So let's do that. And let's print fn. So we are close to our solution, but still the solution is not there. What we have is resource 1, almost everything is having none here, and the reason is simple, because we haven't returned it. We have just printed it over there. So resource 1 has this. Now we need to come up with the answer, which is resource 3. So how would we come up with the answer? We would iterate over the lists, and then we would print out the max, whichever has the max, that is what would be our answer. So we need one more looping now after this. So this would go similar way, but this would for the final map. Now we will have to count the max in the list, which is V. So how about if we have max function? in each list. So what I'm trying to calculate now is we need to find, if we iterate over this list, whatever is the maximum length, that is what we need to find, and then we will get the answer. So we will do ans is equal to 0. We might need to come up with a function, and what the function would do is it would return the maximum frequency value. In this case, it would be these three values in the list, which is length. So there are two ways of doing it. First, when we iterate, we have to iterate the list, and then we have to figure out inside which list the maximum frequency is there. So let's first do that. Let's first identify the resource, then we will try to identify anything else. So this would take list, and once it would get a list, so data structure is typically not that great here, because let's do it here. Let me do one thing. Let me append the maximum length, because right now we have the key and the value, and if we iterate over all the values, in all the value we have to find the length. It would be unnecessary looping when we have this value over here. So we can find the length, and then for each item we could put the max length at the end. Let me try out one thing in terminal. If we have this, and if I do max in length, what do I get? I get this. But if I do max length, there is nothing like that. So there is no other way but to iterate over each item and figure out the length. So we'll do it here itself. How we would do that is for r in delta list, we would do ml is equal to assign 0, ml is less than or equal to length of r, then ml is equal to length of r. And then we will add that at the end, which is max length. And we could also do mi, but we don't have index here. So we might have to also take index. Now let's see how it goes. Okay, we don't need this as of now. Cool. So what do we have here is in resource 3, we have the maximum frequency is 3 and this one is at index 2. So we got whatever we wanted, which is great. Now we can print it whatever way it is needed. So now we will iterate here. We will iterate over and then we'll have same logic if ans is less than or equal to value which is of course a list, but we have to pick the value from -2, second last index. Then ans would be that value, and items we would say itms is equal to v, and then we would also have the index which is on -1. So what do we have here is this is the index of the max length, and the max length is at index 2. So if this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, which is 3 values. So we can always get these 2 values. So once we iterate over this, we would have the answer and the items as well. Now we will do a priority print for this to match whatever is expected in the answer. So we would go just like that. Reason. Let's do it in this way. We will do F. We will go with this, and this will be, this does not have the resource name. So we have items. We also need the key. This is the resource is accessed max time, max frequency, frequently, max frequency of, then we can say answer with ts, and we can provide the timestamps which would come as items. Now let's see. Yay, we got the exact what we wanted. Right, now let's try to check it with log2. Yay, we got it. For log2, let's see what is their answer. Yes, it is 4 times, and the resource is resource 3. This is for the log2. So I hope you like this and you might have learned it. It took me about 30 minutes, but in interview, they don't give that much time. For me, they have given 45 minutes to solve this. And after solving the first problem, I was not able to solve this in Indeed. The interview was with Indeed. I came up with my approach, I came up with this solution, but sometimes it becomes dicey. Now, another problem which I did is this time I did this entire index. I saved this entire thing, and then I came up with some different structure here. But the approach last time I tried was a little bit different. I have also solved that like this here. This is how I would have solved it before. And probably this seems a little bit easier. So what it has is, I have enumerated these values, I have taken the frequency alone, and I figured out the frequency based on the max number. So this solves our problem easily because I'm only checking the frequency which lie in this 300-minute window. Once you have that, you will have the frequency list.index of HF. Now, what is HF? HF is the highest frequency. So once we get that highest frequency, it would be easy to figure out the value from there. And I have returned first of all the key, then whatever is the highest frequency, then the entire frequency list, and then based on that I have created this small list which was nothing else but the start index and the end index. Instead of saving this entire thing, I did that. Let me show you that as well. So it was looking something like this, that resource 3, its frequency is this, and then this is the entire delta I have saved. Based on that max function, I came up with this, and then I calculated the index later on after the fact. But in the interview, they haven't asked the each resource. What they have asked was for the maximum frequency. So we could always have refactored this if we don't need this data. Here we can do the refactoring. Let me also show you that function. Let us try to create another function. We call it as frequency 1. Now what we can do here is, for x in list, we would go and we can sort the list as well. So we have numbers in sequence. Then we will put our first data, and then we can then we will get the number, exact number, and that can be put in the upper array. So what we will do here is we will do the nested looping, but this looping can start from uh, another index, like not the same index. So for I in range length of lst would be the end, and we can start from I. We can name it as R. We can name here as I. So it would start from I, it would go up to the length here, and this will give us the J. Let's say this would give us the J. Now once we have the J, we have to find out that the value of J within that 300-minute window, and we have to put that in ANSL, answer list. So answer list dot append, what we'll append is LST of J, but this would go inside a condition. What's that condition? If LST of J is less than or equal to X plus 300. Since it is sorted, so any value which is less than or equal to, like within 5 minutes for this first item, that would be added in the count. So we have to come up with the variable called as count with initial value as 0, and then we will do count plus is equal to 1, And once this loop terminates, we will have this appended in L. And now we will print ANSL answer list. Let's do this. I have to comment out this print because this is expecting few variables which we don't want. So I would go with frequency 1 here. We will comment out the rest of the section. So now we have the same thing. Let me do this here. Now we have the same thing where resource 3 has these values. Let me make it, let me go to, so we have frequency 1. We are printing here. So because we haven't returned anything, sorry, I'm dumb. I know by now you might already know that I'm dumb. So this is what we got. And what we are trying to get is the delta. So I have to append the count here. I'll show you what I'm trying to do. Yeah, there we go. So for resource 3, we got all this. Now what we're gonna do here is inside this, we will get the max value, which is the frequency, which is 3. So it would give a very simple answer. What we're gonna return here is max of this. And whatever that number would be, that would get returned over here once we iterate. And then we can say max frequency is equal to 0. And when we get this value, max frequency, max key. Max if max frequency is less than, I think there should be a function which does the max between 2 that would assign the value to this. So I guess it would be max function, we will say mf you know what, we don't even need this. We'll get the f here. So let me show you how this thing would work. The max function. So I have to do this max of 12 and 15. 50. So similarly, I have this value mf and then I have this frequency. Whatever is the maximum that would be returned. So I will, of course, when I'm iterating, I'll get the MF, which is the max frequency. But with this, I might not be able to get the key. So instead of using this, I would prefer to do if max frequency is less than or equal to frequency, max frequency is equal to frequency, max key is equal to key, and then print f string. So as max was max accessed in 5-minute time window. Let's see. Yay! Now we will validate this with logs to value. Yay! So I hope you like this. I have also shared the GitHub code, so you can always run and you could check out this code and all these different solutions from my GitHub account. My name is Prem Asim Jain and I love coding. So hope to see you again. Please leave